Semicolon is this state, which you of course know of, wherein you are in this gray area and you ask yourself if you are supposed to keep going or do you stop? Because now that you've found God, you might stop. Or maybe you find an inner calling where you just keep going. So this semicolon comes with a few songs again, which I'm sure most of them, like I think a half of them, I would want you to talk about the half of them, because I think they are more towards the brighter side of it, the found side of it, rather than the lost side of it. So the first song in semicolon is Janeman. When we think of Janeman, Janeman is a Persian word which means Jane Man. Man means myself, me, and Jan means life. Life me, Meri Jaan. So when we say this word, ज़हन में एक शख्स आ जाता है, या you think it's about a person. But Janeman is again a very divinely driven song. It talks about God, because the realist of the real Janeman is God himself. So now that I found God at the end of Lost, semicolon would just spike it a little more for me. And it's a level ahead. It's all about love for God. And he celebrates the love that he has for God. Starting with the chant again in Jamia Masjid, Kashmir. Everybody unanimously just chants, Ya Rasool-e Hashimi, Qurban Naam Janeman, Janeman Jananiman. This is a Persian piece of writing, which is very celebrated throughout Kashmir. And when people say it, narrate it, and recite it all together, it gives them this feeling of collective protection, collective emotion that they feel all together. So, getting into the process of making Janeman, I remember meeting Rauhan Malik. Rauhan, and it was another friend of ours, Junaid. So, some songs come from different sources. Mostly, when you're working on a song, the song comes first and the visual comes second. But for this one, it was the quite opposite. The visual came first and the song came next. So Junaid had this idea in his mind that there's a wide landscape, maybe on a hilltop, and we can overlook some shrine in Srinagar. And there are a lot of people who are playing music, and they are taking God's name unanimously. This was the visual prompt, and this was the first lyric that came to my mind was Ya Rasool-e Hashimi, the Persian part of it. And then we were supposed to put in the lyrics from Vavo into it. That was my idea to do it. But then Rauhan, he said, he has a friend, his name is, we call him JD, Sakib, came on board, and he wrote these beautiful Urdu and Kashmiri lyrics to it, which are so profound, Like you actually get into a zone where you think that you are sitting in a majlis, you're sitting somewhere where everybody is in a trance and everybody is just so connected with Almighty. So that was how this whole thing came around, and Rauhan did everything around it. I was actually a mute spectator for this one, because I think it was just meant for me to feel it. It was meant for me to drown into it, because I was still in that pivot right after. So while this being based on a visual, this might never have a visual, because we want everybody to feel their own devotion when they listen to it. So this was about love again. Semicolon teaches you love. So the first and the purest form of love is the love for divine and the love for God. And the next immediate form of love that you feel, that everybody feels, is for the birth giver, the parent, the person who has brought you into the world. So another song which comes next, right after Janiman, in semicolon, is Khudayas Hawal. Khudayas Hawal is a Kashmiri phrase. So in the morning, when we leave home, we leave for office, we leave for work, we leave for whatever we have to do. तो हमारे जो वालिदैन हैं, हमारे जो parents हैं, mothers and fathers and grandparents and everybody. So when you tell them कि मैं जा रहा हूँ, they say near kurma khudayas hawal, near khudayas chuk hawal, khudayas kurma hawal. So what it means is, जाओ खुदा के हवाले. I send you in God's protection. I send you in God's embrace. जाओ. So that's how you let go of somebody who is leaving home in the morning or whenever. That's where it roots from. My mother tells me this when I leave home. My father tells me this when I leave home. My grandma, my grandfather, everybody in the family tells me this when I leave home. So after the love that you have found for God, it's very necessary and it's very important for you to find the love for your birth giver, for the parent, because they very selflessly love you and they say, Neer kurma khudaya sawal. So they are actually your friends, and this song talks about how your parent is your friend and how you are being loved by them selflessly. So how this all, the lyric, how did this come together is, we were working on the album in Lajpat, Delhi, and all of us musicians were there. There was Zeeshaan, there was Qassam, there was Hyder, the three music producers, the trio who produced most of the songs in the album. So all of us guys were there in this one space, and in our community, we have this, I would call him like he's an upcoming artist, a beautiful artist. His name is Huzaif Nazar. So this guy shows up at our place. So what we guys are doing, we are working on the album. He shows up at our place, and his father calls me and tells me that he's going to be with you for a month. I said, all right, let's see how that goes. So while he was with us in that space, I kind of felt a lot of responsibility towards him. Has he eaten on time? Has he done his things on time? What is he doing with his time? And all of this. I felt like a parent for the first time in my life while having this young guy around me. So this became a reason for me to redirect Khudayas Hawal in a way that I personally feel this emotion and then I put it out. So when I felt it all for Huzaif, I wrote it in a way that it's a conversation. I tell him something, then he tells me something. Then I tell him something again. So he says, I start the song with Neer kurma khudayas hawal, dilas mazma chui ka sawal. जाओ तुम्हें खुदा के हवाले भेज रहा हूँ, तुम्हारे दिल में कोई सवाल तो नहीं है. Guts which खुदाई दीद से जवाब. तुम जाके देख लो कि तुम्हें ऊपर वाला जवाब उस सवाल का जो है दे देगा. And then he comes and he says, Ro mutsu yaar tsei mazlabyom, achan hun salab tsei mashrabyom. मैंने अपना खोया हुआ दोस्त तुम में पाया है और मेरी आंखों का सैलाब, the flooding of my eyes, the tears, वो तुम में समा गया है. So you have taken away my tears. So I really want, and I really wanted to say this thing to my parents. Okay, how I have found a friend in you and how all my worries have been taken away by you. And then I come in, and as a parent, I tell him, Zan ruchmak कंडन मस गुलाब यसह्यून का फलवन चुब्याक. मैंने तुम्हें ऐसे पाला है, मैंने तुम्हारा ख्याल ऐसे रखा है जैसे बहुत सारे कांटों में तुम एक गुलाब थे. यसह्यून का फलवन चुब्याक, जिसके जैसा और कोई भी कभी भी पैदा नहीं होने वाला. So you know how important it is to give assurance and reassurance to your kid as a parent. That's what this parent is doing for the child, now that the child has told them that they see a friend in them. So that's how reassuring the song became as we went on making the album. You can really see a difference in our conversation right now, you know? So when I started telling you all of this, I was talking to you about a certain kind of emotions, and now you see the transition slowly. We are here. We are at the kinder side, going towards a more kind side. So after Khudaya Sawal, after finding love for parents, God and parents, and then finding love for the homeland, finding love for Kashmir, finding love for the place that gave birth to you, jis mitti ke tum bane ho. So Valoha is actually a folk poem written by Ghulam Ahmad Mahjoor. Mahjoor Sahab is called the poet of Kashmir. So when he must have written this, I don't know what his intent was, but for me it is very anthemic. When I've gone through this poem, I've always felt like this is for everybody who is born out of that soil. He says, Valoha Bhagavano no Baharuk Shan Paida Kar. This is the most hopeful line that you can ever find. He says, come, O gardener, prepare for the upcoming summer. So what does the gardener do in order to prepare for the next summer? He plants flowers. He sows seeds, which grow with time, and then they pop, they blossom, they bloom. That's what happens. So he's sowing a seed of hope in people's minds by saying, Valoha Bhagavano no Baharuk Shan Paida Kar. Bhagwan is the gardener. And then he says, Phalan gul gat karan bulbul tuthi saman paida kar. The flowers will blossom, the bulbuls will flutter. Do something in order for this to happen. So when he says that, it fills you with a feeling of summer. It fills your heart with a feeling of spring. Everything is just so green and sunny. And all of a sudden, I realized that I am now at a point where I came from this dark space, and I transitioned, and I found love for God. I found love for parents. I found love for homeland. It surprises me. I did not even feel this transition. It just happened. And I'm sure while you have been listening to me, you must have seen the journey. 2016, I composed this particular lyric. It has been composed many times by people who came before me, and will be done by a lot of people who will come after me. But like I said, I have always felt of this particular lyric as a very anthemic kind of a song. To me, it is an anthem for Kashmir, because it has that heartbeat in it. And the only person who I could really talk in depth about this song has to be none other than Qassam Hussain. So while he was working on the bass line and programming the drums for the song, I got this idea and I thought he's the right person to do a vocal collab on the song as well. And that's what exactly happened. I asked him to hop on the song, and until the point where we recorded this in the studio, we just had a top line of that particular piece that he's doing. And he just went into the studio like a beast, and he delivered it in one take. And I have not seen an artist do that in the, I don't know how many years. Just went in, did it, came out. He was being insisted by others to do it again, to do a better take. But then I said, no, this is all that we need. And when you listen to him in the song, he comes like a feeling of relief, like he gives you some kind of a catharsis. You really relate with what he has to say. You have listened to me for so long, and then Qassam comes after the solo, and then I come again. It feels to me like a very perfectly balanced song. So I see Qassam bringing flavor into the song, and you talk of new summer, you talk about the garden, you talk about Kashmir, and all in all, it really rejuvenates what you've been feeling before. It's a new perspective because it gives you hope, and you really set yourself free here. That's how Valoha really made me feel. You must be wondering that I am at that point where I should hand it over to you and let you speak, because I'm the guy from the lost realm. For me to talk about something which is more into your area, I would rather like to listen from you that how we actually go from Valoha ahead in semicolon, how we transition into the found space. First off, I have been listening to all of what you said, and I need to tell you this, that I am very proud of the journey that you've lived. I know how it is to come out of the dark spaces in your life, and how it could be, how difficult it could be to embrace yourself and then move towards semicolon, and then move towards semicolon, and then aim at moving towards the found space. Being in this space called found, it's not the absolute found, to be honest with you. It is still a journey, just like you said. You were on a journey where you started from one point, from the absolute dark, walking towards the gray space. It's the same for me. I am still in search of the absolute bright space, and I'm still finding myself. And listening to you was such a nostalgia. All the memories came back, relived everything through everything you narrated and everything you told. So I am going to tell you the story where exactly from you left. So right after Valoha, you know what happened? Valoha was very much about the love for the motherland and the love for Kashmir. So getting a little deeper into this love that you have for your motherland, I realized that I really needed to go and find the roots of where it all comes from. If I chose to be a musician, where does all of it come from? And I realized that it all comes from the people who have done it before, the people who have inspired us by doing it before us. And a big part of it is the folk space of Kashmir, which is just as beautiful as Kashmir. And it inspires you more than anything else ever could. And you don't consciously get inspired. It just gets into your subconscious, and it is a part of you being a Kashmiri. So after Valoha, there comes a song, it's called Trum Trum. So when I talk about Trum Trum, there's this very important person who's been a part of my musical journey and been a great friend through and through, Arslan Nizami. This guy is the person who has always kept me in check, always kept me balanced. We make music together, we explore together. So he's that guy for me. So we have done collaborations in the past. We've got a song together. We plan on doing a lot more together. So the album, when it started becoming all about collaboration, so I was sure that in whichever form I needed Arslan on this particular track with me. So he hopped on, and he's singing 2 lines in the outro, just that. But it was all about the presence and not about how much of it. So this folk track. So when you do folk music, you don't find it everywhere like in the commercial spaces. It's very pocketed and spread across the valley. So Zeeshaan, one of the producers from the trio, he happened to know these beautiful musicians from Anantnag, and we went all the way, the trio, me, and a couple of other people from the team. We went all the way to Anantnag to meet this person, Iqbal Bhai. And Iqbal Bhai heads Murid Gharana. So these are some beautiful people who make musical instruments. They make sarangi, they make rabab, and such down-to-earth people. So we went there with all of our setup and decided to record them in their own house. We had tea together, and we spent a whole day recording these people, a lot of takes for the finesse. And they did such a wonderful job. Like, they brought so much on table, so much value. And by the end of the day, when we left back for home, we had the song already, except for the vocals, of course. But when we had it, and it was a very warm feeling to be carrying this legacy. It was a feeling of pride for all of us to incorporate something so beautiful out of the folk space and put it in an album which is very contemporary in its sound. So how does the idea of this song come in? It comes in again from Arslan. He knew that there had to be a song which was majorly an instrumental, and he told me that you need to have this in your album. But then there was this one thing I had listened to on Radio Kashmir back in time when I was a kid. So I remember this from my memory, is that radio pe ek cheez chalti thi, and it went like, Mama Mama Durbeen Trav Havai Jahazo Aao. Mama Mama Durbeen Trav Havai Jahazo Aao. And it means, Mamu chal apni durbeen nikal ke dekhna shuru kar le, Havai Jahaz aa chuka hai. So in a place like ours, when the planes started flying, and when people first sighted helicopters and planes in the sky, they were very fascinated. Like even now, when you look up and you see a plane, you just keep looking. So that was the whole point. Chalo abhi apni durbeen nikalo, Hawai Jahaz aa chuka hai. So how did I relate this with the album? So this was that point where I am so hopeful about. So this is the point where I'm so hopeful about what is going on and what is about to come, which is the album. So the album here is the Hawai Jahaz, and Mama are the people. So it's our way of saying that the album is coming. Watch out for it. So that's when the confidence kicked in, and the song ends with this outro. 2 lines that Arslan sings. He says, Bismillah karit hemo vanvone sahibo azvalo sone. Bismillah karit hemo vanvone sahibo azvalo sone. It means, Bismillah करके हम गाना शुरू करते हैं, और साहिबान, मेज़बान, साहिबान जो हमारे सामने लोग हैं, हम उनके मेज़बान. तो मेज़बान साहिबान से ही कह रहे हैं कि आप आ जाइए और आप हमें सुनिए. So that's how this particular song ends. And the beautiful the most beautiful part about this particular track is the simplicity in it. It is simple to the core, and once we had all the chunk recorded in Anantnag and then my vocals, and then we felt like we should incorporate something more into the song. So I did a lot of vocal layers, and Zeeshaan particularly put in Western classical, uh, right neck to neck with Kashmiri folk. So that happens to be a highlight of Trum Trum. About Trum Trum, we knew that it was not for everybody, but it was actually for everybody, whoever is willing enough to listen. So shedding everything which you think is stopping you and thinking of everything as your own and doing it the way you want to do it was the whole point of doing Trum Trum. A very fearless approach and a very fearless attempt to make people listen to music that roots from Kashmir. Now that I was done with all my romance with the motherland, life again started moving in a way that I discovered this feeling again, the feeling of love. But this time, this feeling was very full of devotion. It was spiritual. Uh, and I came across this one poem. I was reading some poetry that night, and I remember this. I found this one beautiful poem. चला एक ऐसी नज़्म कहूँ जो लफ्ज़ कहूँ वो हो जाए. So when I read the first line, I was floored. Like I was floored. I was thinking, okay, who's this person who has been able to write such a beautiful thought in such a profound way? So I researched and I found the whole poem, and the idea of the whole poem was something which I had in my mind also. So I believe if, had I been in some other realm, in some parallel universe, I would have written that poem. But God sent that idea to Amir first. It was for the first time that I was relating to somebody else's idea of love so much that I was desperate to make a song over it. I wanted to transform this poem into a melody. And all of this came together. There was a short film I was supposed to do, and the song did not make it to the short film, so we were left with the composition. And 5 years of time, ever since we created the first draft and until the release time, this has been a beautiful journey altogether. From the point where Rauhan came on board on the song and arranged it, composed it with me, and then produced the music for it. And then the growth, like we were waiting for the right time to actually put it out. Never knew until January this year that it would be a part of the album. But then being open to new possibilities and embracing an idea of love which is not yours but still is yours because you think of it that way. So I was very fearless with Ishq because it was not written by me. I've always done songs which are primarily written by me. So this was again something which I cherish and I always will. I reached out to Amir on social media and I requested him to allow me to compose this song, and he was nice enough to do that. Over time, we figured out how Rauhan was also vocally supposed to be in the song. So it just makes me smile about how the openness comes into you. It only happens when you are walking towards the found space, when you're finding yourself. So this is the tale of semicolon wherein Ishq came in. मैं आ लिखूं तू आ जाए, मैं बैठ लिखूं तू आ बैठे, मेरे शाने पर सर रखे तू, मैं नींद कहूं तो सो जाए, चला एक ऐसी नज़्म कहूं जो लफ्ज़ कहूं वो हो जाए, मैं दिल लिखूं तो दिल थामे, मैं गुम लिखूं वो खो जाए, मैं आह भरूं तू हाय करे, बेचैन लिखूं बेचैन हो तू, फिर बेचैनी का बे काटूं तुझे चैन ज़रा सा हो जाए, अभी ऐन लिखूं तू सोचे मुझे, फिर शीन लिखूं तेरी नींद ओढ़े, जब काफ लिखूं तुझे कुछ कुछ हो, मैं इश्क लिखूं तुझे हो जाए, मैं इश्क लिखूं तुझे हो जाए. After all of this being said, I wanted to represent Kashmir through this song because we always knew that this song would reach out to a bigger audience. It was a massy song. The lyrics were very relatable. Love is a universal idea. Everybody feels it. So it came with these two lines in the end saying, Azaro Zusane dil barmiane, Azaro Zusane dil barmiane, Bozanundbane dil barmiane, Bozanundbane dil barmiane, which means stay with me or stay at my home, my beloved. Bozanundbane dil barmiane, listen to me, the most beautiful person in the world, my beloved. So the song ended with these lines, and when it came out, until the end, people had no idea that this was a song made by people from Kashmir. And it took them by surprise, and that was the proudest moment when I was reading what people had written and expressed how proud they felt of the fact that they are being represented worldwide and all over the subcontinent, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Dubai, the Middle East, and everywhere. I think what Ishq really did for the whole of the album altogether is that it pulled a lot of audience towards itself, and people started to get to know about what Lost Found is, and then they connected all the dots, and through Ishq they found what Lost Found is, and then Lost Found is a whole story. So Ishq happened to be a door which makes you enter into this huge room with a lot of colors. One wall is pink, one wall is blue, and all of these colors. So it's more like a rainbow to which Ishq was the entrance. Moving on from the semicolon it's always the most crucial point. When the album started, I was not willing to have any other female feature in the album other than Sifar, who features in Ilham and features so beautifully.